In 1955, a Detroit engineer strapped a 331 cubic inch engine into a family sedan and accidentally invented the muscle car. Nobody planned it that way. It was supposed to be a banker's car. Instead, it became the fastest four-seat automobile in the world, and it started a war between Detroit's biggest names that nobody saw coming. 12 cars, 1 decade. A horsepower race that Detroit fought in near-total secrecy, using the interstate as a test track and Daytona's hard-packed sand as a proving ground most buyers never even knew existed. By the time it was over, engineers had broken records nobody thought were possible for a mass-produced automobile, and along the way, they buried some of the wildest engineering Detroit ever built, under badges nobody remembers today. This is the story of the 12 fastest. To understand how insane this decade got, you have to understand where it started. At the top of the 1950s, fast still meant a big flathead 6 and a prayer. Most American cars of 1950 needed 12 full seconds to reach 60 miles per hour, and a top speed over 100 was considered genuinely impressive. Then the modern overhead valve V8 arrived in Detroit showrooms almost all at once. Cadillac and Oldsmobile first, Chrysler and Studebaker close behind. And every manufacturer realized the same thing at the same moment. Horsepower sold cars, and nobody wanted to be the brand left behind at the stoplight. So they stopped treating performance as an afterthought and started building specials. Not concept cars, not one-off showpieces for the Motorama circuit, but real dealer floor, buy-it-today machines with engines that had no business sitting under a hood, designed for grocery runs and church on Sunday. This wasn't hot rodding in somebody's garage with a torque wrench and a dream. This was Detroit itself, the largest and richest industrial machine on the planet, throwing its full engineering weight at a single question. How fast can we go before somebody in Washington or Detroit's own boardrooms decides to stop us? One of these 12 cars would set a world speed record for passenger cars twice, in 2 consecutive years, from the very same company, and it would do it almost by accident. At number 12, the 1958 Pontiac Bonneville with factory fuel injection. Pontiac's Bonneville had started life just 1 year earlier as an exclusive, low-volume flagship, but by 1958 it had grown into the brand's full showcase, and hidden in the order sheet was a genuinely strange piece of engineering. Rochester mechanical fuel injection bolted straight to a 370 cubic inch V8, good for 310 horsepower on paper. Fewer than 400 Bonnevilles ever left the factory with it installed. It was expensive, it was temperamental in cold weather, and it was so troublesome to service that Pontiac quietly pulled the option from the order books before the model year had even finished. And yet that same year, a tri-power Bonneville was chosen to pace the Indianapolis 500, the biggest race in American motorsport. Pontiac, a brand that had spent most of the previous decade building conservative straight-eight family cars, had gone from sensible to sensational in under 3 years. At number 11, the 1956 Packard Caribbean. Packard was the oldest true luxury name to come out of Detroit, older than Cadillac's modern era, and by the middle of the decade, it was fighting for its survival against Cadillac, Lincoln, and its own dwindling dealer network. The Caribbean was Packard's last real attempt to prove it could still build something extraordinary, rather than simply expensive. Under its long, low hood sat a 374 cubic inch V8, fed by dual 4-barrel carburetors, rated at 310 horsepower, genuinely competitive with anything General Motors or Chrysler had on sale that year. It didn't save the company. Within 2 years, the Packard nameplate would disappear from American roads entirely, but for one final model year, it was one of the most powerful cars Detroit had ever built, and almost nobody outside its shrinking base of loyal owners noticed. At number 10, the 1957 DeSoto Adventurer. DeSoto occupied Chrysler's middle shelf, positioned above Plymouth and below the Chrysler nameplate itself, the brand nobody outside Mopar circles remembers today. But the Adventurer quietly accomplished something no other standard equipment American car had ever managed. Its 361 cubic inch HEMI V8 produced 345 horsepower as delivered, making it the first base model U.S. production car to cross 1 horsepower per cubic inch, without requiring a costly special order engine to get there. Only 649 were built that year, split between a hardtop and a convertible finished exclusively in black, white, or gold. Most Americans in 1957 had no idea the quiet middle-child brand had built one of the most powerful cars in the entire country. At number 9, the 1957 Dodge D500-1. Dodge's D500 package existed for one reason, and that reason was NASCAR homologation. The D500-1 variant fitted dual 4-barrel carburetors onto its red Ram HEMI V8, pushing output past 300 horsepower in a car that, from the curb, still looked like an entirely ordinary Coronet sedan. Nothing about the body panels, the trim, or the badging gave away what was hiding underneath the hood. Detroit had effectively invented the sleeper car a full decade before anyone had a name for it. But the real war wasn't being decided in NASCAR pit lanes or on quarter-mile drag strips. It was being decided on a stretch of open beach in Florida, and it was about to become deeply, publicly personal between two of Detroit's biggest rivals. At number 8, the 1957 Plymouth Fury. Plymouth's Fury paired an 318 cubic inch V8 with dual 4-barrel carburetors for 290 horsepower, enough to put this supposedly affordable Chrysler product within a few tenths of a second at the drag strip of cars costing nearly twice its sticker price. Independent testing in 1957 clocked it to 60 miles per hour in right around 8 seconds flat, a number that embarrassed far more expensive machinery from Detroit and from Europe alike. It came only in a cream and gold two-tone paint scheme, and it was, by nearly every measure, one of the best all-around performance packages Detroit sold that entire year. At number 7, the 1957 Oldsmobile Golden Rocket 88 fitted with the J2 tri-power option. Oldsmobile had already built the car many automotive historians credit as the true first muscle car, the original Rocket 88 of the early 1950s, a comparatively lightweight body stuffed with an oversized, overpowered V8 years before anyone in Detroit used the term muscle car out loud. By 1957, that formula had matured into 3 2-barrel carburetors, feeding a 371 cubic inch V8, officially rated at 300 horsepower. It was Detroit's original founding idea, refined and pushed to its late-decade peak, wrapped in a name, Rocket, that promised speed before a buyer had even turned the key. At number 6, the 1957 Ford Thunderbird F-Code. Ford answered Chevrolet's fuel injection breakthrough with a completely different kind of engineering, a factory-installed supercharger. The F-Code Thunderbird bolted a Paxton McCulloch centrifugal blower directly onto its 312 cubic inch V8, officially rated at 300 horsepower. Though period road testers, and even Paxton's own engineers at the time, suggested the real figure ran closer to 340. A modified, race-prepared version of this exact engine combination reportedly hit over 160 miles per hour out on the salt at Bonneville that same year. Only 196 F-Code Thunderbirds were ever built. Ford had produced America's first mass-market, factory-supercharged automobile, and then almost nobody actually bought one. At number 5, the 1957 Chevrolet Bel Air fitted with fuel injection. Chevrolet's engineers had just handed the small block V8 a genuinely new kind of fuel delivery system. Rochester mechanical fuel injection, elegant, simple, and unlike Chrysler's troublesome early electronic system, reliable enough for everyday use. Fitted into a Bel Air's 283 cubic inch engine, it produced up to 250 horsepower in full sedan trim and could push the car to 60 miles per hour in the mid 7-second range.